to the 801 Green double-decker RT from Stevenage Bus Station to the High Street Market. This bus runs back and forth between Stevenage Bus Station and the market all day after coming from Ware in the morning, and then at the end of the day it goes back home to Ware, and we will be getting the final service home to Ware at the end of the day. We probably won't go all the way to Ware because it's a bit of a faff to get home. If we do, we'll probably get out of Hertford North. So I hope you enjoy the video.
Do you think looks are important?
No, I don't think so.
What about money?
So that is the RT, the same one that we got to the High Street, back on its way. It went back to town and now it's come back to the High Street. And this is the last one that comes to the High Street. We're going to get on it again, go back to the town centre, and then that'll take us all the way to Ware. So the weather has turned slightly since we got off the bus, and I went to get a bag of crisps as well. To Ware crossing.
Yes.
Are we allowed upstairs?
Of course you are, yeah.
Hooray, thank you. Oh, jeez. Oh, it's steep. Jeez. Wow, look at that. On the right. Oh. So we are now on the green double-decker, which I wish I knew a bit more about. I know that it's an RT, so it's a bus from the sort of RT series of buses from the sort of 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. So we're now in the High Street. We'll be making our way back to the town centre, and then this bus will go all the way to Ware Crossing. The ride quality is lacking in the comfort department, but what it lacks in comfort, it does make up for in safety. These old RT buses from the 20s, 30s, 40s sort of era had very good safe suspension. It wasn't brilliantly comfortable, but they've got very good anti-roll bars and anti-topple measures, and I think the height of that was with the RM, when they sort of stopped making the RT series and they started making the RM series. The classic red London bus, the famous Route Master, could be toppled at, I think it was a 30-degree angle on plate, 30 degrees, and it still wouldn't fall over. So even though these aren't brilliantly comfortable, they've got very safe. The brand new bus station at Stevenage, as part of the town centre regeneration works. They're building a brand new bus station much closer to the train station, and it's also a much better facility than what Stevenage currently has. What we've got at the moment is a sort of island thing where the buses sit in the middle and then bus stops around the outside, and in the winter they let the weather in, they let the cold in. But with this new bus station, there's going to be an accessible toilet, there's going to be like sort of heated waiting areas, there's going to be a cafe, it's going to be a lot more indoors, it's going to be much nicer in the colder sort of winter season, and then I'm assuming in the summer they'll probably also have air conditioning as well. So the new bus station is going to be a much better facility than what Stevenage currently has. I've had an interesting conversation conversation with one of the co-owners of this old classic RT. So it's quite interesting really. So this bus originally was built in 1950, but the way the buses were maintained when they were under ownership to sort of the Greater London sort of bus companies and stuff, all the components that needed replacing, the whole bus would go through a sort of replacement every 3 years. So anything that needed replacing, body panels, suspension pieces, you know, coilovers and stuff like that, they get replaced every 3 years or so. And by the time this bus got to where it is today, it had probably gone through 6 buses worth of components. So the only 2 things that stayed the same on the bus throughout that whole time were the number plate and the fleet number. And if you go back, you could probably make about 6 buses of all the old components that were replaced over the years. And it's a bit like the grandfather's axe. If you're chopping away a tree and the handle snaps, so you replace the handle but you keep the head, and then one day the head just gets too blunt, and no matter how hard you sharpen it, the head gets too blunt, so you replace the head with a brand new head. So is that still grandfather's axe? Because you've replaced the handle and you've replaced the head. Is it still grandfather's axe, or is it a brand new axe? Because if you kept the old components that you threw away, you could put them back together and make grandfather's axe again. So do you have 2 grandfather's axes? It's a very sort of complicated what are those things called? Conundrum. I've got my mum with me because she had nothing else to do today. So the history of this bus is really interesting. And yeah, it is an RT. So this was built in 1950. The original of this number plate and fleet number was built in 1950. But the design of the RT came from sort of 1937, 1938, and no one actually knows what RT stands for. And this bus was succeeded by the route master, the RM, and it's actually a shame that the RM became world famous, because it was, it was red, it was the red London bus, it was the classic design. This came before the route master. The RTs, there were about 7,000 RTs built, and just a fraction of that RMs were built. But the RTs were forgotten largely, and they were mostly out of service by the 60s and 70s because of modern bus services being introduced, particularly in Stevenage when Superbus was introduced, and it was one-man operation. The one man was the driver, and operating the fares and stuff, and opening the doors. It was all at the front. There was no rear loading, there was no open platform with buses anymore. So these sorts of buses, and even the route master as well, they all sort of went by the wayside because of modern single deck, and even modern double deckers are also one-man operations. So, but yeah, so the history of this bus is really interesting. I think I'll leave some reading up things in the description of the video to learn more about the RT and the route master and things like that. So we're currently just leaving the town centre. We're at this giant roundabout on Six Hills Way and Monkswood Way and St George's Way, this sort of 3-road intersection at this giant roundabout. We're just pulling out of the town centre, and we're now on our way to Ware Crossing, which is it's basically just the railway level crossing, but I didn't realise that was why it was called Ware Crossing. I had to ask the co-driver. So yeah. So this weird traffic light junction that we're coming up to now used to be a roundabout, and for some reason council thought it would be a good idea to turn it into a weird sort of lighted junction. Don't really know why. It did used to be a roundabout. I'm not sure there was anything wrong with it before. They just decided to turn it into a lighted junction. Whoa! Saying A602 road improvements, and there was another sign that said queues likely. So they're sort of, I think they're straightening up or making the curve on this junction wider. I'm not quite sure what they're doing to it, but there are definitely a lot of roadworks happening at the moment. That's a weird lane layout. Ew, that was weird. Look at this. Brand new junction. Queues are indeed likely. We're just passing through the rather quaint little town of Stapleford, who I think may have had their own train station once upon a time, a very long time ago. So we just went past the 390 and we're now pulling into Hertford North little bus stop.